if we could get a little bit about you yourself, your biography. You were born, what's your birthday?
Uh, November 18th, 1957.
57.
Yes.
So you're a young man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were born in Plaquemine,
Right.
but your parents were living at the time here in Bayou Sorrel.
Yes, sir.
Where they were living there when you were born, where they were living, was that the first place that your dad moved when they came out of Bayou Shan, or had he already moved?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Before you get started, we're
all
rolling.
right.
As far as you know, when they came out of Bayou Shan, your dad moved directly to
Bayou Sorrel.
Bayou Sorrel.
Uh, he got married. They built a little two-room house there. He had a boat like this to fish with, 4-horse.
Right.
That's what he used to start it out with. And as far as I can remember, he always built boats.
He was building boats like that. But
Yes.
but was he building a range of boats though? He was building a range of different kinds of boats. Too.
Right, yeah. Well, when outboards came out, he had to build boats for outboards, a little different type.
So the experience of a young,
Okay. Go ahead.
what we'd like to know something about is how it was like growing up in a house with a dad that was a boat builder. And
Okay. And like I said, I always remember him building the boats. I went to school or whatever, he was always building a boat. Every time I look around, somebody wanted a boat built. I got used to help him all the time, hold this, hold that, mix me some glue or give me them nails. I was always doing something, with him. And finally, I guess when I was about 17, decided I want to build my own. So I snuck off, bought me some lumber, and went down the road under a tree and built my boat
that was
without him seeing it.
What sort of boat did you build?
It was just a little skiff for crawfishing, plywood. It turned out all right. It had to be. A couple of my friends all come and wanted me to build them a boat, so I started building a few then too. By that time, he was working in the plants. He give up on them, Everybody's going to aluminum boats, and they're getting away from the wooden boats.
So by the time you were 17, you had absorbed enough
Oh yeah.
to know how to.
Right. Well, I'd follow him around, doing houses or whatever, and he always had me with him. So I could do a house or I could build a boat, whatever needed to be done.
So your dad is just an all-around carpenter.
Oh
Anyway.
yeah. Yeah, he done did everything just about carpenter work. I mean, from setting farms in the plants, doing cabinets, whatever. If it was wood and nail, he could do it.
And that encouraged you to go into woodworking.
Yeah, I guess it did. I always followed him around doing it, so I come up learning how, doing it all the time, and I just stayed with it.
Today, do you do more more cabinet building? Or
Right,
what's
I
your-
mostly do cabinets now in the shop while things are going good.
Yeah.
Right now it's kind of slow, so I got to get out and do a little extra work now.
Yeah, yeah,
I still get a few calls now and then.
yeah. Is this the first boat of this sort that you're building, or have you helped on these
Oh, I've helped him with a lot of them, yeah.
putt-putts?
Right. Oh, yeah. And I've been wanting to build one, just been putting it off. So finally, we come across the number and said, well, I'll go ahead and build mine now. And we got it started. So.
For you, what does Bayou Shan mean for you? You were born over here.
Right. Well, I mean, that's where my dad and them was from. Grandpa, and we own property out there. So, it's just good memories, I guess.
So when you were little, y'all would go out there from time to time.
Right. Yeah, we'd have to go out there and mark the property. you know, the corners of your property so everybody know where it's at. 'Cause a lot of people just go anywhere, you know. Him and his grandpa and my uncles, they'd all go out and they'd paint the line so they know where their property was at.
They probably would tell stories about it too.
Oh, yeah.
You heard stories about
Always, right. Talking about when they used to live on houseboats in one part of the basin and they'd move to the other side. And when they dug the channel out, they worked on that and stuff like that, you know. Doing seismograph work, where they'd use these boats to go all over in the woods, you know, to pull these wires and stuff under dynamite looking for oil.
it. Uh-huh.
Some places they couldn't go, they said they'd be walking in water and water lilies up to their neck,
Yeah.
just pulling wires.
How much do you find yourself in the swamp today?
Well, the last few years, not much, but up until about 3 years ago, I'd fish crawfish every year. Commercial fishing, you know, I love it. It's hard work, a lot of people say, you know, but if you enjoy it, that's all that matters.
So the catch hadn't been as good lately?
Well, my son started a construction business and I was helping him, and catch hadn't been that good, so I just stayed working with him. Kind of got away from the fishing. And I wish I'd go back.
Yeah.
I'd rather go out there than walk in the shop. You know, more peaceful. I enjoyed it a lot.
Now the boat that you all are building today, is that going to be your boat?
Yes, sir. It's gonna be mine.
What plans do you have for it? How can you imagine you using that boat?
Oh, it's just gonna be to ride around with and play, you know. But I mean, I got work boats at the house.
Yeah.
To go in the woods, you know, through the trees and stuff. That's what I like.
Yeah.
High water.
How about the club? There's a little club here, Putt Putt Club there.
Yes,
Are you
sir.
a member of that?
No, not really. But I will be. I got a boat now.
You
I
have
can.
a boat now.
Right. That's why they all ask me why you don't build a boat. I said you gotta have a motor. They said most people worry about the boat. And I said, well, I ain't worried about the boat. I can build that. You know, I gotta have a motor to put in the boat. Without that, boat ain't gonna do me no good.
So do you have that plan now? The motor that you're going to put in there?
Yes, sir.
Where did that come from?
That was from one of my uncles that used to live down the bay, and he moved to Plaquemine. He had a job up at, moved to Port Allen. He had a job at the port. He quit fishing, and I come across the motor, found out it was his, so that makes it a little better,
Yeah.
you know. But we still got to do a lot of work on it, you know, board out and stuff, get it fixed up, everything on it. But I got it now, you know, I mean, we can do that.
You think you'll do any fishing with it, with this boat here? Or
Oh, I
crawfish?
doubt it. No, that's just on the ride, just to enjoy it. A Sunday evening cruise, you know.
Have you thought about how you're going to finish this boat, paint-wise and everything?
Oh, it'll be varnished, yeah, so you can show the cypress, you know. I mean, it's hard to come by. And we all,
Where did that cypress come from? The one that,
this one I think come from Marpaw.
okay. And the one that you're building for you, that's
Same, yeah.
from Marpaw.
Marpaw cypress, right.
It's hard to come by today.
Yeah, it is. I got a friend that's got some logs in the spillway, but he's been supposed to pick them up for about 3 years now, and he ain't never done it yet. So, when he gets them, we get them sawed up. We might make some more.
Now, your son, you have a son, Jason, you have
Yeah, Laney.
Lane.
Yeah,
Is he going to be a boat builder? Right?
he probably will. He does anything else he wants, you know, carpenter work. So
Oh, either.
yeah, he's the contractor. He builds houses and stuff. So he follows us pretty much. But I tell him all the time, he went to college for 5 years. And when he got out of college, he come to work with me in the shop. And he could have saved me a lot of money and just stayed here working with me. So,
he's fortunate to have that opportunity.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, well.
Danny, we appreciate it very much, and this has been quite an
Bob Legner. Bob Legner from Jeanerette, Louisiana.
Well, shine it up.
This is a machine water pump and strap, as it's called, which is the connecting part between the engine and the pump. The casting, the pattern was made by Mr. J.B. Castanoff for both the water pump and the strap.
All right, wait.
And I machined the water
All right,
pump
come on
and
down.
the strap, which requires quite a bit of machine work.
Yeah, that ought to help you out.
Made. The pump has to be all machined. Packing gland has to be made. The plunger, the strap
Pick up one.
requires quite a bit of machine
That
work.
works. That guy works.
Build it.
Try taking.
This is I'll
take
build
that watch
this for
back out
Mr.
there.
Ori Mendoza. For the boat that you see he's building
Lower
right
the
now,
boat.
it's gonna go on the engine.
I'll deal with first, and we're gonna work it around.
This is for an 8-horse lock wheel.
Get the base
This
back in.
particular pump will fit the 8-horse,
I got that.
6-horse,
How y'all doing? How you doing, Mr. Orr?
All right, bud. How you been?
All right.
well,
Take
because
watch out
no
there. Take the big
pumps
one.
are
That's,
available
audit
today for
valve.
these engines. We're getting the
That's
castings
old GM
done
paint.
and machining the pumps exactly.
Just put the little one back,
We have
huh?
the prints
I'll
on
walk
the
them out and see what happens.
so we know exactly how to go about doing each one.
How you line it up?
Well, the engine was discontinued in the early 40s.
That's why I think you need that
Hey,
washer.
don't move.
Yeah, that's why you need that wash under.
And we're reviving the engines and have to build a lot of parts for them because none of the parts are available.
Pick it up there. Okay, put the one on the other side.
We got it. Spin it this way.
You ought to be able to spin it now.
This is the cap.
Still hard. I mean,
Main thing I'm concerned about if you can run the shaft up in the coupler.
The cap
But we can take care of that.
Take your shaft back out of there and put
And
your
it's machined out of brass.
against the bottom.
Threaded
See what
or
see what
inside the pump.
Yeah, 'cause you can reline this motor with shims and stuff. That's the thing you need to get straightened out.
And this brass ball.
Yeah, that's what you gotta do. Just get them close, and then you reline your motor up to it.
the water in one stage, stopping it from going back off, and then in the second
You're wasting a lot of time like that. You can't line it up and get it perfect like that.
Again, oh, yeah, yeah, again the coupling.
that is the water pump. This is the completed water pump.
it's in the coupling.
Plunger
One in the
and
coupling
the
is
strap
easy.
that actually works the water pump.
Slide these in the coupling.
All right, I wouldn't pull it on. I'd weld that thing on, tack that. You can readjust this motor with
Right,
shims.
Sucks water
Line
out
the
of
motor
the
up to the
line,
shaft.
or canal, or bed, or lake, wherever you need it.
Oh,
Yeah,
The water goes
you're in good shape there.
and it comes out here,
I tack it lightly and then you can try it.
Yeah.
And if it still do, then we put you some lag bolts in and hold it.
I got that.
What happened? Y'all quit?
Well,
Y'all ain't-
back in the
y'all
year,
can't,
these engines were being
we ain't selling nothing. You can't take no commercial break.
Y'all want to eat? You gotta keep working.
this particular brand, Lockwood Ash, dominant.
Now,
And they produced
put that piece down. We're gonna check it for squares.
they could buy these
See if that squares lined up, 'cause they could have pulled one way or the other. Level it up. That piece got to go under. Close enough, now, Keith. Have little waves on the bar, it would be perfect.
to make their living. They had a very few fellows that have to do the these engines going. Very few guys building these boats.
Just a little bit. Not much. About a 16th.
Want me to turn it?
That's good. I might have to. Too short. You should have bought a longer level.
body.
The fuel injection ain't working.
Starting with Miss Dory.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, takes a lot to get it this far.
Oh, let me tell you, I decided I wanted an Adler engine because they were manufactured locally and no old farm engines at the time. And I found one. And the guy said, well, go see Bo over at Bo's prop shop. He knows who to talk to. It was a relative, and I called him. And it's been a tremendous thing since then. Thank y'all. It's due to all y'all.
Good job.
You know, I ain't
You're
done
very
nothing
welcome.
on this.
Come on, nice.
Remember the first time you showed
Beautiful.
up?
Yeah. Y'all been a great group. I truly
Well-
appreciate it. Ori built this boat, and he built a fine,
Yes, he
boat.
did.
Truly fine.
We all went through the same pains to get one going, and
Yeah.
it's worth the effort. I guarantee you that.